Good afternoon. Welcome to Central Valley Talk. My name is Ray Johns, and the name of my show is Voices Not Yet Heard. And we hope that we'll be your voice. We hope we're your vehicle. You can call in. The number will appear on the screen, and we're going to talk about just about everything. I'd like to start with a quote from one of my favorite people, and it's this. The greatest leaders are not necessarily the men who do the greatest things, but they do teach, and they allow people, and they get people to do the greatest things. Ronald Reagan said that, about 3 decades ago. And it's one of my favorite quotes. And let me kind of take a backdoor approach to something right now, and you bear with me. Can you imagine the incredible power of a united nation? And what I'm talking about is a nation that unites itself. We completely unite for one ultimate call, and that's to allow the people and have the people abide by the will of the people. I mean, can there be anything greater than the will of the people? It's what this foundation was founded upon. Now, I'd like to say that, like I said, we're going to go in the back door with this. Can you imagine right now, and I ask the question, what's going on in this country? I mean, what is really happening in this country when we find our nation and ourselves in this crisis? And I call it a catastrophic crossroads. Well, I'll tell you. What about an administration that refuses to adhere to the will of the people? An administration that makes decisions independent of the will of the people. An administration that boasts that they created 15,000 jobs, and yet they set atop a $15 trillion deficit. I can't possibly write that many zeros in 3 days. And how about an administration that reduces the military when we are at war with a cowardly foe on one side and 3 challenging enemies on the other? Well, I know you're looking for a solution, and this is my solution to that. How about an administration that places the American people first and foremost? How about an administration headed by we the people and Donald Trump? Welcome to the show. And backed by popular demand is Gary, and you remember him, Gary Miguel. He is a wealth of information. Gary, come on in here.
Well, thank you, Ray.
And in lieu of all the things that have been happening, especially this week now we've got this afternoon the congressional hearings going on and what happened. I'd like for you to speak a little bit about that.
Well, at first I want to say about the job report.
Okay.
You know, there's 15,000 jobs. I didn't get it this week, but last week was 32,000. Well, number one, the job report is a phony report, period. And I happen to deal with that kind of thing a little bit, you know, because it affects the market. And those jobs were government jobs.
I'm not surprised.
They're not jobs that's being created by you and I. It's jobs that the government creates.
They continue to lie to the American people, don't they?
Absolutely. I mean, and plus, you know, what do you mean? You'd hire, we have jobless is up. Our job report is there's more people going to work by 15,000, but they're all going to work for the government.
They don't tell us that, do they? They fail to tell us this very important point.
And the people that can't find work, they go off the job report list. They don't even show up as unemployed. Unemployment is really probably about 20,
I'm so
25%,
glad you're pointing this out.
You know.
Yeah, the people need to know this.
It's probably more like 20-25%, at least, that are really people that are out of work. You know?
Yeah. You know, I've got to say something about what has happened this past week, and I know Gary has a great deal to say about this, but I felt like it was a total insult to the American people that the Clintons should think that all of that happening with him flying in and meeting with Lynch was coincidental. I mean, it's like a slap in the face to the intelligence of the American people.
Well, it is, and the fact that on that day that he was in there, it was 110 degrees on the tarmac out there, and Clinton is, you know, had a few health issues, and he claims he was playing golf. Well, they've gone to all the golf courses. They didn't see Clinton anyway. He knew that Loretta Lynch was going to be there.
Of course he did.
And scheduled the meeting there to deliver her a message.
You know, I surmise, and I got to say this, I know Gary's going to have something to say that, and then they try to pass it off that they were talking about their grandchildren. Now, I think they were probably talking about their great-grandchildren and how much money they were going to leave their great-great-grandchildren down the road from all this corruption.
Well, what amazes me about the Clintons is how stupid they think the American people
Yes.
are. I mean, come on. I mean, you can't even. I mean, what? Come up with something like we're talking about the grandchildren for 30 minutes, and we're supposed to believe that?
And they just happened to be there at the same
Oh
time.
my God! It's incredible, you know, and that's kind of the MO though that believe me, she got the message. That's what the reason for him coming out there.
Exactly.
And what the message was, I don't know, but I can surmise just like everybody else can, you know. And but the thing that gets me now, or what I've been thinking about, is it's all over TV what Hillary is and what the Clintons are. And I mean, we're exposed to that constantly on regular network television and so forth. But a question people have to ask themselves is a personal question. Is what does that mean to me personally if I happen to be a Clinton supporter?
Yes, yes.
I mean, I'm sitting there as a Clinton supporter because here's the thing we have to think about. Most people in America are good people.
Absolutely.
Democrat, Republican, doesn't
They're
matter,
good
whatever
people,
they
good
are.
American people.
They're good American people. And they want to raise their children the right way and instill morals and values and standards that, you know, that we live by, and the culture and so forth. Now, how in the world do you square with yourself when you're sitting there saying, I'm supporting Hillary Clinton, who's lied to everybody, Congress, FBI, and American people, and the families of people that were
Killed.
killed?
You know, I've got to use something that you used, if I may.
Sure.
If Gary told me a week ago, now he set up this analogy. He was from Lemoore, I'm from Chowchilla. Now, let's say that we have a man running for mayor. This is brilliant from him. And we haven't really quite decided, and all of a sudden, all this stuff comes up on one of these two people, right? There's all this bad stuff. So Gary said to me, he said, now, who do you vote for? And I said, well, I vote for the good guy. You know, there's nothing on him, and I'm already straddling the fence, so to speak. I'm going to vote for the good guy. And he said, why wouldn't the American people do the same thing in the general election? You know, we've got all this stuff on Hillary Clinton. It seems to be as clear as, you know, as your face, you know, and yet people are still undecided. And that's the thing I don't understand.
Well, it says, to me right now, we know who Hillary Clinton is. We know what she is. Now, the question becomes, you know, what does that say about me? What does it say about me if I'm supporting something like that? I mean, I have to sit there and take a hard look at myself and say, what in the world is it that I'm not getting? Now, you know, there's no shortage of unthinks that we have to understand, but, you know, just a basic common sense, after a while you start to look at it and you say to yourself, man, I don't live like that. I don't believe in that. I don't have those kind of values. Just the opposite. What am I doing?
I think the American people are starting to wake up.
I
hope
think they
can,
are.
You know, I do, Gary, and I hope they continue to wake up.
Well,
and take a really good look at this woman.
She's insulting her own people, her own party. You know, she's very insulting to them in that kind of a way she conducts herself. And you have to ask themselves that question, gosh, what's this saying about me, you know?
Absolutely, you do.
And I think that she is, and the Clintons, you know, the whole family, I mean, it's so blatant. And I think that there's yet more than what we just came through, which was this FBI investigation on the emails. Next up is going to be the Clinton Foundation itself.
Good, and I can't wait for that. You know, it really bothers me a lot that I had a lot of faith in our FBI director. I don't have faith in him anymore.
I don't either, and that's
None.
just so sad because in this regard, you know, I always get a little suspect when people start saying, oh, this FBI director, he was so this and so that. You know what I mean? They say, oh, I respect him and he this, and that. But here's what happens to a lot of good people. They get caught in the Clinton web, and
Talk
they
to us about
become
that,
corrupted.
And
Well,
that's happened a lot of
Oh my God! You go back to Rose Law Firm. Go back to Arkansas. People that just find themselves caught. Now you take this director of the FBI, probably a fine guy. You know what I mean, and all that, and he's probably living his life and is doing very well for himself and for everybody.
All of a sudden, he's caught
All
in the
of a
web.
sudden, he's caught in the web, and the Clintons have a way of that kind of a web.
They do have power, don't they?
They have a lot of power. For instance, like he mentioned today that he didn't know about Obama taking Hillary that was all prearranged. How does he know that part of his staff doesn't know? Somebody in his staff is being compromised.
Absolutely, that could happen. I can see that. I'm
Absolutely.
glad you brought that up. That's a very, very vital point.
I mean, they can. There's members of his staff there. They find something about him, and then they now go to him, and he is pretty much forced to tell them what they want to, what they need to hear. So it's not necessarily always that person. And you look at this FBI director, and you think, my God, here he was a fine gentleman, respected by everyone. I don't think anything about him now, do you?
No, not at all. Not
mean,
at all,
it's
Jerry.
horrible.
I really respected this man. I thought, oh my goodness, it's finally going to come out
Yeah.
about Hillary Clinton. And I'm not kidding you. It's just like it took you know how you go out and you work real hard all
Yeah.
day, and at the end of the day, you're just totally exhausted. That's what happened yesterday, and I was
That's right.
perfectly fine until I heard that.
Well,
and all of
and-
a sudden, I'm
yeah.
exhausted. you know?
That's the way I've talked to a number of people, and that's how they feel about it. And it's kind of a shame in this. Well, it's not kind of a shame. It is a shame, and because if you think about what Hillary has really done and the jeopardy that she's put into a lot of people's lives that had access to those emails because they were involved some way in terms of maybe divulging their situation.
Yes.
But think about this. Think about where that put all of us, the American people, in jeopardy.
She sold us out for personal gain. That's the way I look
Absolutely.
at
The
it. She
bottom line.
absolutely
Bottom
did.
line.
You know.
And the foundation, and well, the purpose of the private emails, it wasn't because she doesn't know how to work a computer. I mean, a cell phone or whatever that is. My God, we all could do that. And especially in that position, you learn it really
Absolutely.
quick. And
Someone
she's supposed to
teaches you
be,
if you don't know.
Well, she's supposed to be half smart anyway.
Yeah.
And so then she says, well, for convenience, we'll come to find out that was a lie.
Sure.
She used a number of servers or her Blackberries and so forth. Okay, then we talk about where she sets that up, and anybody can look at that and say to yourself, she set that up because she didn't want people to find out certain things.
Absolutely.
Well, one of the things she wouldn't want somebody to find out about is all the money that was going to the Clinton Foundation, which are nothing more than bribes and money laundering. And if you go back and look at the nations that's donated money and the corporations and so forth, you'll find that,
Millions and millions of dollars.
well,
we're talking about.
it's a pay for play.
Excuse me. Exactly.
And then you consider this: she's Secretary of State, an employee of the U.S. government, being paid a salary. How in the world does she end up making, while she's Secretary of State, $143 million?
Oh my goodness.
How does she do that?
Yeah, how does she do that
She
when the
doesn't
president
own
of the
the-
United States only makes $200,000 a year?
She
Yeah.
doesn't have a factory somewhere. She's not Ford Motor Company.
No.
She hasn't done a thing.
But yet she ends up with $143 million.
And,
Come on, people.
I mean, wake up. She's making fools out of her own voters, and she's making fools out of good people.
You know, you said something earlier when you and I were talking about the fact that, well, for instance, was it Bosnia where she landed and claimed that
Oh, yeah.
she landed under gunfire and she had to run in and they were shooting at her and all this. And then when they showed the actual film of what happened and she walked off smiling, someone handed her some flowers, and she came back and say, oh, I made a mistake. That's very much akin to a great movie called Gone with the Wind when Clark when Rhett Butler said to Scarlett, he said, "You're like the thief," he said, "that gets caught. You're not at all sorry for what you did. You're only sorry because you got caught." And her and Loretta Lynch are in that same situation.
Absolutely.
They're only sorry, yeah, we made a mistake,
Well,
only because they got caught. You know?
Yeah, because had they not been caught, would they be saying, "Oh, we made a mistake. I want to bring this up"? No,
No,
you would never
no,
hear
you would never have heard that. That
No.
just amazes me.
No, it really is time, Ray, and you said it earlier, that the American people wake up. And waking up doesn't mean that you're necessarily taking something what somebody says. Sometimes you're best off just looking straight in the mirror and saying, "What in the world am I doing?"
Absolutely, buddy.
Sometimes that's a good consult. You look right in the mirror by yourself and you say, "What in the world am I doing?"
Gary, let me ask you something about these congressional hearings that are taking place, actually, as we sit here and speak. What do you think is going to come of these? I mean, I know there's probably a couple of different scenarios. I know what I'm hoping will happen.
Right.
But I hope that during the FBI probe, and it didn't happen. So,
Well, the thing that I can see with that is obviously she's getting by with lying. So
Yes.
I'm sitting there saying, "Well, you lied to Congress, you got a problem." I'll tell you, just like that FBI director, he said today, he said no, the intent. We couldn't find the intent. Ray, you're driving home. You're doing 65 miles an hour in a 45-mile zone simply because your mind was wandering. You didn't realize how fast you was going.
absolutely, it's happened before.
And it's happened before to all of us. And and the cop pulls you over, and you say to him, he says, "Hey, you're doing 20 miles over the speed limit." And you say, "Oh my God, I had no intention of doing that." You're still going to get a
You
ticket.
doggone right. Ignorance is no excuse.
That's it.
I
But it
love
is
your-
for Hillary
I
Clinton.
love your analogies. I love these.
But it is for Hillary Clinton.
Yes, it is, and she gets by with it.
And she got by with this one so far. But with the next level, which I think is real damaging, is going to be that Clinton Foundation.
Oh my goodness, let's talk about that.
I think that's going to be a real...
Because they're going to totally investigate
Well,
that.
you know, they almost have to. I mean, let's say like Congress or somebody, they aren't investigating. Well, they asked the FBI director, "Are you investigating?" He wouldn't answer, which told me that he was, or he's been pressured to. I don't know how much he's compromised, though. If I was him,
I think he should totally excuse himself.
I think he should, too.
You know, I really do.
I was thinking
Because,
about that, too.
I mean, you know, this man, he had to be compromised. Something happened.
Well,
Something
he's lost
happened.
all credibility with anybody.
He certainly lost it with me, and I think a lot of the American people.
And I think a lot of American people. Now, he said that they had not had a case where, you know, with the intent. There was a year ago, it was a Japanese name, I can't pronounce it, but there was a guy that, just an ordinary guy, that somehow he compromised with his email, and it was classified material. They got him. I mean, guilty, convicted him.
You know what I thought about, and I was going to ask you about this. You know, I think if what happened with Hillary Clinton, she got completely away with this. I think they should pardon everyone, including General Petraeus,
Oh,
for
absolutely.
his part. He should get a pardon, an automatic pardon.
Well, how does anybody have any respect for law if it is meant that the law is for you, and then the law is meant for some others? I mean, come on.
I heard someone say one time that we better change the saying "liberty and justice for all" to "liberty and justice for some."
For
You know?
some, absolutely. And so I think that it sends the wrong message, and that's what made me kind of sick today, too. is I'm
Yes, me
thinking,
too.
man, I says, there's all us Americans out here, and that's not the message we want being sent out, because it is two standards. There's no doubt about
Absolutely.
it. And so,
I keep thinking about General Petraeus. I mean, he did 1/10 of what Hillary Clinton, and the man gets, you know, I'm sure he lost his military ranking and all that.
I forget what happened.
I can't remember.
All the
Maybe I'm wrong
punishment.
about that.
Yeah.
So, you know, please call in if I'm wrong about that and tell me that, and the number will appear on the screen.
I think he was a misdemeanor, and
Well, good.
but
I'm glad of that.
But as far as I don't know, I think the biggest thing that makes you kind of sick is that you realize that, man, we've got laws for them and laws for us, and we gotta maintain ours, and they get to do theirs.
You and I would have been wearing
Oh,
the
my
pinstripes
God.
by now, wouldn't we? The wide stripes and
wouldn't
working
even-
on the railroad or whatever it is
My
that they
Lord.
do.
I mean, and these guys take a year to fool around with that. You know, what in the world is going on?
Unbelievable. Unbelievable.
So I don't know, Ray. I think that the American people, as you said earlier, have to really look themselves for first time in a long time. And really, this is the most critical time since perhaps the Revolutionary War, the Civil
Absolutely.
War, World War II.
Mm-hmm.
As far as importance of president, the Great Depression, and and look what Reagan did with the Cold War.
Absolutely.
And we're at a very critical point right now as the soul of our country.
Exactly. We're at war with these ISIS idiots right now, regardless of what people want to say. We are at war
Right.
with these people.
But-
And
but-
then we've got three people on the other side, the challenging foes, in China and Korea
Right.
and Russia, the Soviet Union. So we are at a point
I think
now.
that we're at a point where really we're at war right here in this country.
Absolutely.
Because
are.
we have a group, which let's just name it the Clinton crime family, if you will.
Yeah, I like that name.
And we've got a group of people that, man, I'll tell you what, they are not marching to the beat of what drum we think we should be marching. I mean,
Right
that's
there.
a different, and they can divide, in which they have been, but they're literally dividing this country, and they come up with these lies and schemes and corruption and crookedness and lies and getting by with it, and that's not sending the right signal.
I honestly think, we've just endured almost 8 years of a total disaster as a country, financially and every other way. 8 more years with Hillary Clinton will bankrupt this country. I truly believe that, or at least come
Ray,
close to it.
I'm shocked that it hasn't already happened. But here's the fear in something like that. We touched on it last time we were together. Is that there is a point where it does end. Okay, and now we're up there. I just seen last week where we set a record in one day. It was on a Friday. We set a record in increasing the national debt by $500 billion in one day.
One day?
In one day. 500 billion. Never and ever has anything been like that. And Obama has increased the national debt double from when he took office. Now, I'm not talking about up 10%, 20%. I'm talking about double.
Oh, my goodness, I had no idea.
I mean, and that's
500 billion
in one day that we increased our national debt. So, a debt's a debt. That means it's owed to someone.
Yeah.
Okay, what happens when you just can't go anymore, which it's close to that?
Yes.
Okay, here's what I fear, and we touched on it once.
Okay.
Okay, now they're trying to negotiate the debt. But what happens if that gets interrupted? It makes your EBD card
I love this.
rejected, and they don't have to be for very long. And you'll
Total
have
chaos.
Total chaos.
And he declares martial law.
Well, if he's
Possibly.
exactly, but let's say Clinton got elected, and she reaches that point. I mean, it's asinine, But she reaches that point where, wait a minute, we got to time out here because these people are calling their debt, and we're getting our rating, our debt worthiness lowered. So we got to time out here for a little bit,
Because there's no money.
and then all of a sudden there's no money going to anybody, especially the people that are hungry with an EBT card.
Like you said earlier, those are the people I fear.
No, the most.
The guy with the gun in his pocket's not after me.
That's it. That's it. And I think that's an interesting thing. You mentioned the gun in your pocket. I got thinking about this the other day. And I don't understand this part. And there's other parts to it. But this part I don't understand is there is more crime with the use of a gun committed on blacks by other blacks than anyone that's committing crime on blacks.
That's a
now, if you're a
long-standing
black and you
statistic,
got a
you're right.
gun, my God, you need the gun for protection. Why would you vote for somebody that's going to take your gun away? Does it make any sense to you to be voting for someone?
No, it does not. It does not.
Incredible. And we touched on this too. It's like she makes people dependent on her, or that's their
Like the
idea,
liberals have done for
which
all
the
time.
liberals have done for years, and it's pandering and it's racist.
Absolutely.
I
it
think
is.
that Hillary Clinton is probably the greatest racist that we've had
I'm
run
so
for
glad you
president in a
made
long
that
time.
statement. Yes.
Not just black people. I'm not talking about just black people. I'm talking about yellow people. I'm talking about red people. and I'm talking about white people. Anybody that she thinks beneath them, then she
Great
has
point, Gary.
no
Great
respect
point.
for. And I think that if anyone's a racist, it's Hillary
I
Clinton
think you're right.
in that regard. Because what does she do? She's panders, right? Now, I'm going to take care of you. And we've talked about this. Psychologically, isn't she trying to put everybody that she thinks beneath her on a plantation? I don't
Absolutely.
care what color you are.
Yeah, you're still on the plantation.
You're
You're
still on the
right, Gary.
plantation.
It's a very good point.
You know, and I think that this is something, there's no incentive there. Okay, now, if we look at these four words, if we look at the word, let's say, let's look at responsibility, okay, and accountability. But let's look at excuse and blame. Ray, I wish I was getting that call.
Well, I apologize for that. I do.
I seen
thought
her
I'd
picture
turn
come
this-
up.
Hang on, folks. I apologize for this. I should have done this, and I didn't. It's the first time I've never done that. So I apologize to my audience. Okay.
But if you, what we were talking about was the, what was that we were talking about?
You were just about to make 4 points, I think.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And the 4 points are excuse, blame, and then responsibility and accountability. Okay, so let's start with the excuse and blame. Okay, what Hillary or liberals do, okay, they give you an excuse why you're like you are. No matter who you are, okay, but they'll give you an excuse. Well, you're that way because you're this or you're
They
that.
label you. They
label
categorize you.
Right.
Absolutely.
That's racism.
Sure it is.
Okay, they give you somebody to blame. You know, and in this country,
Let's blame the conservatives.
let's blame
That's-
the conservatives.
Exactly.
Okay, so now you're sitting there and they make a victim out of you, which means you need, if you're a victim, man, I need somebody to help me. I'm going to help you. And she makes you dependent. She takes away incentive and she takes away any initiative that you may have. Because, heck, I'm a victim. You know, and I'm a victim because of this. And I do that because I can blame that.
Absolutely.
So I don't go anywhere except I become a member of the plantation.
Gary, she's a scary woman.
Well,
you know.
if you think about the whole thing, now let's go to the next one with the next two words, responsibility and accountability.
Okay.
Okay, now if you're responsible for what your actions are and what you do, and you're accountable for them, doesn't that change the whole dynamics a little bit?
Absolutely, it
To where
does.
now you have to be dependent on yourself, which means independent, which means freedom. And that's what they're trying to take away, to make everybody dependent on them so
them.
they stay in power.
That makes great sense to me.
And as far as the greatest help you can give somebody is say, you don't go up to them and say, come with me and I'll take care of you.
Take care of you.
Come with me and I'll show you how to do this so you can take care of yourself. That's the greater. And that's what I think that the liberals are getting a little bit messed up on there.
Let's hope the people like you. I really think the people are. It's slow. I think they're starting to wake up.
I
Gary.
think so, because it goes against human nature. Human nature is we want to be free. We want to be able to accomplish what we can accomplish. And we want to feel good about ourselves. How in the world are you going to feel good about yourself if you're being taken care of, dependent like a little baby?
And that's what they made it. They made a certain segment of society dependent upon the government. How sad is that?
And
you know?
in fact, they get you snared. And the thing about that too is, I just was thinking about this. One of Hillary's deal that she's toying with is forgiving the debt for college students.
Oh yes, I read that.
Okay, let me tell you how damaging that is.
Okay.
Okay, number one, we've talked, I think, about the scam that I think that college thing is,
Yes.
and where the kid goes to college, he doesn't have the money, the government loans him the money, and then he can't get a job and he can't pay it.
Yes.
So who picks up the tab? The taxpayer.
The American taxpayer.
All right. Now, is this fair? You get two kids come out of high school. One kid goes to college, and he gets a loan or whatever, and he doesn't have to pay for it. Well, somebody's paying for it. How about this kid that gets out of high school and goes to work, and he's working at a job, paying taxes?
Then he's paying for this kid's
There you
education.
got it right there. There you got it. And now this kid goes on over, oh, I'm a college-educated kid. This kid's over here just busting his butt, and he's working those 4 years that guy was in college, paying taxes so this guy could be in college? It doesn't make sense.
Great way to look at it. And it makes sense,
Yeah,
Gary.
it doesn't make sense. So, we're going to forgive all these college student loans. Come on, you went to college because of the loan and with the idea you're going to pay it back. I mean, that's a commitment you made.
Yes.
Now we're just going to. What are we doing? What kind of responsibility we're showing? What kind of accountability are we
Absolutely.
showing?
And she wants to
But
forgive that.
She wants to forgive that. But how about the guy that didn't go to college, and the gal that didn't go to college,
It's worked all
that's
this
working
time.
all this time, paying taxes? It's going to go to these people that didn't.
They go to college free because
Yeah.
this man here
Now,
paid
does
for
that
it.
make sense?
No, not at all. Not at all.
That's a sad deal. It's things like that that people have to wake up to.
Gary, there's no end to this thing with the Clintons, is there?
There's no
I
end
don't
to
see
it.
any end. I mean, every day I read, and I read constantly about something else that happens, and I think, oh my goodness, does the American people know half of this stuff?
Well, and the thing about it is, you got to ask yourself if you're a Clinton. If you was a Clinton supporter right now, I'd say to you this. I'd say, Ray, ask yourself what really Clinton is doing to you, not for you, but to you.
Mhm.
And I mean, are you feeling good about yourself right now that you're voting for a liar?
That's got to wake
That
a
you're
lot of
voting
people up.
for a corrupt, a criminal?
Who continues to lie, and you know, and Donald Trump says crooked Hillary all the time, and he's been ridiculed for that, but he's telling the truth. The woman
Well,
is a
I
crook,
think
you know.
he's very wise in doing that because after
do
a
too.
while, people say, well, God, especially now, what we're seeing,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, almost daily, we're sitting there saying, well, God, what is it that she isn't crooked?
It
Everything
goes
she
on
touches
and
is
on
crooked.
every single day. Excuse me, Gary. I just wanted to remind the audience that if you're watching this, we're live right now. If you see it later on in the week or on YouTube, we won't be. But feel free to call in. The number appears on the screen if you'd like to talk to Gary, man. This man is a wealth of information. Call in and ask him anything. I mean, I learn from him every single week. Anyway, Gary.
The thing that the people have got to understand that both Democrat and Republican at the high level, we're talking, when I say high level, I'm talking about what they talk about establishment, elites, the uniparty or something.
Yeah.
Those people have the ideal candidate, the perfect candidate in Hillary Clinton.
Of course they do. And they bought her already.
Yeah, but that's what's so good about it. Plus, she's a good liar. Well, I don't know if she's a good liar or not, but she is a liar. She has
Yeah.
no problem with it.
Yeah.
Plus, she's a good crook. Plus, she's corrupt. Now, what if you're a uniparty person? I got the perfect candidate.
They hate Donald Trump.
Oh my God, wouldn't you?
Yeah,
If
absolutely.
you was them,
Absolutely.
because he's about to upset their deal.
Yeah,
You know,
absolutely.
And there's another area that I'd like to talk about today, Ray, which I think is
Good. Let's talk about that.
I remember this last year, over a year ago now, when Trump made a speech, he mentioned it one time. He mentioned that he had a friend who was an investment banker who made $280 million in 1 year. And that hit me, you know. I said, man, how do you do that in 1 year, right? And then he mentioned about Wall Street, because Wall Street doesn't want Donald Trump by any means.
Of course they don't.
They got Hillary
They
bought
have
and
Hillary.
covered, right?
Absolutely. They've already paid for her.
Absolutely. And Trump says, if Wall Street gets too tough on me, I'll expose them, the American people. And then he's never mentioned it again.
And you know that he can.
And I know
Yeah.
that he can. And what I started thinking about with that is the average person that's working out there has a retirement program. If they got a job, they match it, 401ks and all the rest, right? Okay, whether you're a teacher or whatever, right? Okay, then if you can get 7% per year, people are pretty happy with that, right?
Absolutely. they are.
Okay, and I got to thinking about that.
With the banks at 3%, that's 2.5
That's pretty cool.
times. Yeah.
Yeah. But let's just look at the 7% that everybody is accustomed to or accepts is a better word. And think about this for a moment. Every year there's a high and a low in the market. And that's
Absolutely.
what they invest in, is in the market. You know, your mutual funds, your
Yes.
pension funds and all that. And bonds, you know, it's all the same. Okay, doesn't it stand to reason that every year there's an absolute low for that year and a high for that year?
Absolutely.
Okay, I went back and looked I went back about 15 years, Well, it does at least 100% every single year. The difference between the high and the low is over 100, but let's just say 100%.
Okay.
Well, doesn't this come up immediately? You sit there and say, well, wait a minute. Who got the other 93%? I mean, that's the question. Who got the other 93%? Because the market had a low and the market had a high. And let me tell
And
you,
the investor got his 7%, but there's 93% out here on the table somewhere.
somebody got 93%. Who got that?
I think Wall Street gets it.
Well, of course. And you took the guy, that's just one man, 280 million.
Oh, my goodness.
So what I'm getting at with that is that the American people aren't aware of that type of a situation, but they could do it on their own. All they have to do is say, what was the, let's say 2015, what was the low, what was the high? Okay, well, you need something to know when it's at the low and when it's the high. But there's programs out there, all right? Because we talked about that before.
Yes, we did.
And so then, but we're talking about 100%. I mean, make it 50% or what. I just want to know who gets the other 93%.
And we both know where it goes.
And we know where it goes. And this is like Wall Street. I mean, we're talking about, I don't know if we're talking about billions or maybe we're talking about trillions for all I know, because I know the market is trillions in dollars.
Of course it is.
And so anyway,
Pretty fascinating.
I think that the American people, when it comes to personal finances, we go to college, we go to high school, we go to grammar school. It's not that difficult. It's not rocket science.
No, it's not.
I mean, biology is a lot harder.
Yes.
Calculus is a lot harder. Algebra is a lot harder. All that's harder. But just teaching personal finances, it's not rocket science. 10 years old can learn that.
Yes.
But here's kids coming out of college and they don't know the answer to that. I talked to a kid the other day, just graduated. He's 22 years old, a very good school, took business. He has no clue. Because I asked him that same thing. We're talking about the 93%. I said, well, didn't you take classes? Oh, yeah, that's... But they
No
don't,
one knows about it.
they don't know how to do that, you know, and it's not being taught, and it should be taught.
Absolutely.
It's just like
should.
relationships should be taught in school.
Oh, I think you're right.
You
I
know.
really think you're right about that.
And when are the kids going to school? Interview, I seen on TV that O'Reilly has that Waters. These are college kids and stuff. They don't know who bombed Pearl Harbor. They don't know. In fact, this one gal didn't know when the War of 1812 was.
I mean, I watched that the other day.
Did you?
Sandra and I watched that, and we were both astounded by this. You know, they asked this one girl, and she was a college student, I think.
Yeah.
Maybe not. They asked her, they
Well,
said...
regardless,
they said,
she could be a grammar school. You
Yeah.
shouldn't know that. Who's George Washington?
that was it. You know, they held up a picture and said, who is this?
Yeah.
And she said, I think it's... what president was this? And she said, I think it was the second
Right.
president, John Adams, after Abraham Lincoln.
Yeah, after Abraham
And I'm
Lincoln.
going, are you kidding me? You went to college? You know, and don't ask them who the Secretary of State
Oh,
or who the
my
Vice
God.
President is.
They have no clue.
Unbelievable. And you think, well, I heard that especially in the inner schools, some of the kids graduating from high school are reading at a 5th grade level. That's why this country is 33rd in education in the world. That's sickening to me and sad.
Well, it is sad, and kids getting out of school and can't read or write. You know, I mean,
And they're graduating. They're pushing them through. They're pushing them through.
well, it's like a factory.
Exactly.
You know,
They're
and
like cattle.
I remember when I went to school, and you probably do too, right there in Chowchilla. Man, you didn't pass until you passed.
Let me tell you
I
something.
mean, you might be 14 years old sitting there in the 6th grade.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You didn't pass. And I remember that Sandra and I talked about this over the weekend, for instance. Like, you had to pass civics, I think, to go into the 8th grade. You had to do that, you know? And I'm thinking, don't they teach this stuff in grammar school anymore to these kids? Don't they take American history?
Boy, wasn't that eye-opener when you seen him interviewing those kids on
Oh
the
my
street?
goodness, I couldn't wait. I think we were preparing dinner together, and we were both running back and standing there and watching the TV, and we were astounded. We were just, it was just amazing to us,
Yeah.
you know, that they were asking. I wish I could remember some of the other questions.
Oh,
but
I
it was
know.
It was hilarious, Gary, and you think,
they had
and
the-
sad at the same time.
Oh, it was
you know.
sad. They had the Civil War, Revolutionary War. We fought the French.
Yeah, I remember that. They asked him. They'd
The
say,
Civil War.
and they'd say, "Was it?"
They had
was
no
it-
clue.
Was it Russia?
Yeah.
And they asked him. They said, "Who was the Civil War fought against?" And the guy said, "I think it was Paris. Not even a country. I think it was Paris."
Yeah.
How sad was that? But that one gal that said, "I think he was the second president,"
Yeah.
Abraham Lincoln, who was after. I mean, John Adams, who was after Abraham Lincoln. I
Right.
just said, "Oh my goodness."
Yeah, I think really what it's gotten down to, and this is the point I wanted to make, really, don't you think it's down to the point where the American people need to start looking in mirrors?
Absolutely.
You
I
know, we
love your
could blame
analogy.
somebody. We could, we could run Hillary Clinton till the cows come home. But come on, we know what it's all about. I mean, just a little common sense. It's just, for instance, like her foundation.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and her email. I mean, it's common sense will tell you that she does not want people to know what she had on that.
Slap in the face of the American people.
And she did not, and that foundation is just an absolutely laundry deal. And I mean, people that stupid. And then, I don't know, I guess maybe, I just can't believe how anybody.
They totally
wake up.
insulted us. I mean,
Yeah.
they totally insulted. I feel insulted. I feel that they think I'm stupid. That like we've already talked about it, but like the Loretta Lynch thing. I mean, how could they possibly think that we didn't know what was going on? In the wake of the hearing, in the wake of the FBI probe, it happens just now, and he happens to be there. Come on, people.
I mean, little kids can figure this stuff out.
Yes.
And but she had a situation, or she has a situation now, where I think people are starting to wake up,
I think they are too.
and I think that she has been a tremendous embarrassment to a lot of people. There was this guy that wrote in the other day, and he said, "I apologize." He said, "I voted for Obama, and I was ready to vote for Hillary Clinton." He says, and all of a sudden a light bulb went off. He says, "I feel ashamed. I feel embarrassed." He said, "And I owe you an apology."
I heard about that.
And I think there's more people.
I think there's a lot of them that are going to
Yeah.
start. Like you said, it's slow, but they're starting to wake up. Let's hope a bunch of them. Gary, I think we're going to take a break,
Okay.
and we'll be back here in 2 and 2.
Died, who gave that right to me, and I gladly stand up next to you and defend her still today. 'Cause there ain't no doubt I
back
love this land.
With my great guest, Gary Miguel, and we're going to talk about a couple of things. I'm going to interject something here, and I'd like Gary's opinion on it. I read a pretty startling article the other day about the Islamic State called ISIS, and this campaign started back in 2014, so in less than 2 years, there's been around 130 ISIS attacks in 26 countries. That just amazes me, with many lives lost. I think the one I got was 1730 or something, but there's a lot more than that, because I don't think they count all the Muslims that were killed. Gary, you got anything to say about that?
Well,
And
the reason
yeah.
it's so difficult is because we think of a war, we think of it as an army and tanks and guns and all that.
not this type of war.
No,
yeah.
these people are with the people, in the people. It's a psychological war in that regard. And I mean, they're able to infiltrate and just, you don't know where they are.
Yeah.
And so it's an entirely different dynamic.
And-
And I like Trump talks about he's going to get rid of the ISIS. I think what you have to do is intimidation is their whole thing.
Absolutely.
And I think that you just got to start killing those people.
You have no choice. We have no choice. It's what I said before. It's too late for retreat. You want to retreat, that's fine.
Yeah, where are they going to retreat?
Yeah,
you know?
yeah. If you want to give up, it doesn't matter. We're going to annihilate you anyway.
Yeah,
We have no choice.
We have no choice in the sense that it's coming to America.
Yes, it is.
It's already
Yes,
here
it
a
is.
little bit, but
and
nothing
Hillary
like
Clinton
over.
and Barack Obama push it under the carpet like it's nothing. They make excuses for it every time. They want to bring refugees in this country. Donald Trump is right. We don't know who these people. Homeland Security cannot
Right,
screen
right.
all
You
of
don't
these
know who
people
they
coming
are.
into this country.
Right.
Look what happened. Look what happened in San Bernardino.
Right.
These people lived right next door to someone. You
But-
cannot screen these people.
Well, and look what's coming through the border.
Absolutely.
And look what Hillary wants, another 500,000 for crying out loud. But here's the thing that's interesting about that, because I have some friends of mine who are farm labor from Mexico, and we discussed this. At one time, this country, we had a bracero program for, I'm talking just agriculture, but we had a bracero program, and quite frankly, I thought it worked very well. You know,
Explain that to us, because
well,
I'm very
basically
interested.
what it is, they come up here with a visa or a work deal, and they work, and then they go home. But I talked to one of the fellows this morning about it, and he said, you know, it was better off to be illegal.
Why is that, Gary? And I
Because
think
here's what I'm thinking. Because I hit him like this. I said, wouldn't it be nice if you could just come up here and work? You didn't have to swim the river, dodge all the smugglers, dodge all the human traffickers,
the snakes and all
the
that.
snakes,
Yeah.
and walk across the desert there, you know, with, don't know where your water's coming from or anything. I said, wouldn't it be nice if you just walk across like everybody else? He said, but the problem with the Bracero program is they would be paid here in America, and the government of Mexico would take over half their money.
Oh my goodness! How many of you people know that?
I didn't know that.
I didn't know that.
I didn't know that. He says, no, he says, in fact, in his case, he said it was his grandfather who come up here under the Bracero program. At those days, it was $1 an hour. And he says by the time he got home or anything, it was less than 50 cents an hour.
How sad is that?
So he said he would have been better off. So what I looked at that's an issue that Trump would have, because I see a work visa as being the, you know, the remedy. And I'm thinking, well, he's going to have to negotiate something with those Mexican government to make sure these people get to keep their money, and that Mexican government doesn't take all their money when they come home.
Yeah, there must be something that he can do, and I think he's a great negotiator. Perhaps he
this-
can.
I think he can. Well, I know he can. You know, I
Me
mean,
too.
he'll get that done. But I tell you, one of the things that opened my eyes was quite a few years ago. I happened to be I was in Switzerland, and I started noticing these people, and they didn't look Swiss to me, but they were working in all these jobs. Okay, and so I asked the tour guide. I said, "Well, who are these people?" He said, "Well, they're Portuguese, Turks, and Moroccans."
Oh wow!
And she said, they come up here and do jobs that the Swiss people do not want to do.
Similar to what we have right now.
Exactly. Now, here's how they come up. They come up with a work visa. They're protected by the Swiss laws, just like the Swiss. In other words, their laws are Swiss laws, and they're protected. They come up here for a specific period of time, whether it's 8 months, 9 months, 1 month, whatever. And they're here for that length of time in Switzerland, okay? Now, what they can't do, they can never get a Swiss citizenship, and they can't bring their families.
They just come to work. That's
They
it.
come to work, and they sign up for 3 months, or whatever it is, and then they go home. Now, that made a lot of sense, because they were doing the jobs that the Swiss people, standard of living was such, we're just not going to do that. We
I
can't.
see.
You see what I mean? It's just like what we got here, and a lot of that. Okay, so they come up here, or it's into Switzerland. They're totally protected, health-wise and so forth, and they work for a specific amount of time,
And they return.
and then they return. They cannot ever become a Swiss citizen, and they can never bring their families up. They go home. They're just there to work and come home, and that
And that prevents
That's a
them
clean
from
deal.
for living off the Swiss government, doesn't it? And
absolutely.
getting the benefits of the Swiss
Oh,
government.
can you imagine how efficient something like that is?
Yes,
and how
why
it
couldn't
works?
that work here, Gary?
Well, it can, except there's too many people. There again, we go back to the uniparty that's getting fat off of this,
Yeah,
including
yeah.
Mexico government themselves.
And this has continued for years,
Yeah.
so it's going to take someone like Donald Trump to straighten this out.
Well, I remember when Ted Kennedy, he was the author of what we know of as the President Immigration Deal. And I mean, if that wasn't an idea for them to create more Democrats, I don't know what does. And that's one reason why it's not stopping, because Democrats don't want to stop it,
Of course they don't.
you know.
It's-
And so
It's all a matter of economics.
it's
isn't
all,
it, when it comes
well,
down to
and it
it's a-
should be, you know.
Yeah.
I don't have any question about that, but I don't like when it's crooked economics.
Absolutely, and that's what I'm talking about,
Yeah.
crooked economics.
And so when we have something that keeps going on and on, I mean, let's face it. I mean, do you have to be I mean, how stupid do you have to be to not understand this immigration thing we got isn't worth a darn?
No.
It doesn't
No.
make any sense at all. Of course not. You know, and when I get a guy, like I said this morning, he sit there and
That's
says,
right.
"Oh, we was better off being illegal than legal."
At least they got back with most of the money, didn't it?
Yeah, but he says, "Oh, it was great. We get paid here in America, go back to Mexico, and they take it."
Yeah.
So,
Which must have discouraged a lot of them.
well,
from
then
coming
they
to
started coming illegal again.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know?
They had no choice. Or they were forced into that situation.
So that's an issue we have with that. I think that's one of the issues that hopefully. Well, I say hopefully. I have confidence they will. Trump will take care of that.
Oh, I think so. I'm with
It
you.
may
We
not
know
be
he
in
will.
the manner I think or you think or whatever,
But it will be taken
it's
care of.
not,
That's
not
what
going to be like this.
No.
You know,
No, and it's,
and it's going to take Trump a long time. People have to be patient because this country.
it's been going on for years. For one
Ray,
thing, you
this
don't
country
just.
is in a far worse
Oh, my
mess
goodness, Gary.
than what we, like you and I, even sitting here realize.
Yeah.
Yeah, they realize how precarious we're actually in.
It is just so. I'm just amazed every day. I was sitting there last night on my bed, couldn't sleep, and I was thinking of the corruption in this country. This is a country. I'm a patriot. I'm a conservative
Exactly.
Republican. I love this
Absolutely.
country. I absolutely love this country. And I thought, my goodness, there's so much corruption here. Just so much of it.
Well,
When does it all end?
You mentioned a good word there. You said, "I'm a patriot," and you look around. There's a lot of people are patriots.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty easy to find. But when you think of Hillary, do you think of a patriot?
Absolutely not.
Just the opposite.
No,
Just the
absolutely
opposite.
not.
You
Hillary
think of
Clinton
Trump?
is
Do
not
you
a
think of a
patriot.
patriot? Absolutely.
Absolutely. Donald
Now, there's
Trump is
a
a
patriot.
patriot. Yeah, there's
You
a
may not
patriot.
agree with this. May not agree with it.
But he is a down at the bottom. At the bottom line is Donald Trump is a patriot.
That's
He's
the
for
reason
this
he's
country.
running for president.
That's the reason
He
why.
doesn't have to run for the money. He doesn't have
course
to
he
run
not.
for all that. I mean, he could be sitting there on his yacht out there somewhere.
Relaxing.
Oh my
Yeah,
God!
with
I
his
mean, the
family.
standard of living that he's.
He really cares about this country, and he sees the
said
mess.
that.
Yeah, he cares about this country.
You know, the guy
he
lives-
sees the mess we're in. He wants to straighten it out, and he has the ability to do that.
He's seen what he was able to do with this country, and quite frankly, if he would like to see everybody do the same thing, and he wants the opportunity that if you could do it, you do it.
Yeah, absolutely. He wants to return this country. It's very simple, to abiding by the will of the people, and that's when he said that. He said that over and over. I want to put America first,
Absolutely.
and foremost,
And that's and start thinking like Americans.
Yeah,
You know,
we should be first. Now,
That's
this
right.
this present administration has everybody else. It makes you feel like everyone else is first. The refugees coming into this country.
and it's divisive.
Yes,
You know, when we start saying this person is this because of this, because of his race or because of his ethnicity or whatever. Come on, aren't we? Why don't we just say American?
absolutely.
Do you know Ray Jones, Gary, from Chowchilla? I don't say, oh, you mean that African American friend of mine? Yeah, American friend.
I like that.
American
Yeah,
friend.
absolutely.
Because everybody
All of us.
are Americans.
And that was the whole thing, like the Orlando thing, for instance, and we've touched on that before. It's almost like Hillary Clinton has been back and forth on gay rights. Whatever suited her, that at the time,
Right.
that's what she said. But it was so appalling to me, was after this awful thing, and those people are Americans just like you and I are.
And sort of acting like it and being
Exactly.
treated like it.
And she stood up the day afterwards and the day after that and talked about how she was for gay rights. And yet she accepted $25 million and more from Saudi Arabia, a country that executes people for being gay.
I remember I got upset one time with Fresno Bee. They used the term Portuguese American. I'm Portuguese American. I wrote them, I said, no, I'm American. And I got a friend of mine that's Mexican, and he hates that Mexican American.
Yeah.
He says,
I like the term American myself.
I'm American.
Gary, we're going to take
Yeah.
a time and take a little break here, and we'll be back in 2 and 2. I'm back with my great guest, Gary Miguel. And Gary, I hope you'll come back again.
Well, thank
we
you,
really
Ray.
love having you
I
on. I
enjoyed
get
it.
great calls
I really
every time
enjoyed
you're
it.
on. And I close every weekend by saying, if you want to do something great, for yourself, do something great for someone else. You know, that's how it comes back to you. Try this. It works. Let's all go out there and do something for someone. It can be a smile. It can be a hello. But do something for someone. I'll be back next Thursday, and we will continue Voices Not Yet Heard. So until that time, heaven's blessings.
CentralValleyTalk.com